Welcome to Michigan in Focus. I'm Scott McClellan, a Michigan and Minnesota reporter. With me today is Tom Gantert, one of the Center Square's managing editors. This week I wrote about a federal indictment in Unsealed this week that accused 7 people of stealing $11 million from 50 victims in West Michigan and nationwide. Most of those people were elderly. So the indictment says that the victims would receive a computer pop-up saying a virus had infected their device, which provided a number to a cell phone number to call and resolve the alleged problem. But apparently the number led to alleged scammers in India who would scare the victims, and they would apparently tell the victims their bank account had been compromised and that they needed to hand their money to federal agents, or that the victims were part of a criminal investigation and that they had to pay to clear their name. So these alleged scammers were part of an international ring of fraud who, in one instance, met someone in Lake County, Michigan, and collected nearly $400,000 from some woman who thought her bank account was compromised and that she was handing her money to federal agents. And unfortunately, the FBI says that this happens quite frequently. In 2022, the FBI's Elder Fraud Report said that there were 88,262 people over the age of 60 who were victimized in 2022 for a total loss of $3.1 billion.
The state of Michigan tracks what are the most common fraudulent scams for elderly parents. And there's basically 5 different variations of it. There's the first one, I know people have fallen for this, the grandparent scam, where you get an email or a text message on the cell phone from a grandson who is in jail, doesn't want his parents to know, can you give me, a $2,000 for bail? And don't tell mom and dad. And they know the name of the grandchild, and that's one I'm personally aware of. Then the other ones are lottery and sweepstakes scams where they say that you've won it, or the sweepstakes recovery scam where you get the email or notification, the elderly people do that they won, but to process the award you get, it's like several $100s. And the other one is a government money scam. The Nigerian one's out there too, but I mean, the government money scam where the government has found an account that you have such and such money. The processing fee to get that money is this, send it to us, blah, blah, blah. So, I've fallen for a scam. Wasn't elderly, but I was looking for a house to rent. And, I went on, you're on, Craigslist. This is a couple years ago. And I saw the house. I saw the rent was low, and it was in a decent area. So I called and that started it, and they know how they got you in was a photo of a decent house in a nice neighborhood. And the rent was, whoa, that's far lower than, what it is. So you contact them and then you're in because, you think that's the house. It took me about 10 minutes to figure out, I didn't lose any money, but, for about a good 10 minutes, I was thinking, hey, I found a good place to rent.
Yeah, and that's even more of a danger whenever you have people who aren't, someone like a grandparent who may not call to verify the information with the parents or the kid themselves. I know whenever I was looking for an apartment in Washington, D.C. a couple years ago, I almost got scammed from an apartment that the guy just had no connection to the apartment existed, but the person who was selling it, air quotes, selling it to me had nothing to do with the actual apartment. So thankfully I didn't
It was $150 to get some paperwork done. Yeah, I know.
Yep.
I went through the whole thing too. So luckily I don't give a dime to anyone without actually meeting them. So,
but I mean, for a lot of Michigan retirees, this could be a pretty scary scam. I mean, imagine, handing over almost $400,000.
There's other problems too, because legitimate things where you have to pay, I'm very skeptical of. I've had situations where banks have called me about things I'm trying to fix, and I'm like, I'm not telling you anything.
Yeah.
Because I need your social security number. And it's like, so in those instances, I always get a number and call and say, like, I'll call you back, and I want a number, that I can track, and it better match the bank you're with, or we're done, And in one instance about 5 years ago, it was a bank, and I was like, I'm not telling you anything, because they were asking like Social Security number, and it's like, no, I'm not telling you that, It's like, you should have that on file. But as it turns out, it was legitimate, and they were just asking unnecessary information. That happens all the time too, by the way, where if you've ever called a bank before and have to, to expedite the call, and you give them all the information and you get the person. And
I do my best to not give out my Social Security number, because, it only takes one leak for you to have a lifetime of hurt. I know several people right now close to me who are going through identity fraud, and it's a nightmare. It's very hard for banks.
I tell you, I had identity fraud hit me about a year and a half ago for $1,200, and I caught it within 10 minutes. And it was Amazon. And I said, I didn't order this, and blah, blah, blah. And the stuff was getting delivered. I'll never forget this. Amazon called, because there was something that was going to be delivered to a Texas address. We had the address. And we called the United States Postal Office that was shipping it. And it was in the process of being delivered. And we had a USPS person saying, can you stop the shipment? And the Amazon person was saying, please stop the shipment. And she goes, we're not going to stop it. Yeah. Forget it. And hung up on us. And it's like, okay. It just kind of struck me. It's like, yeah, hey, we can stop this. We'll stop this thief. And United States Postal Service didn't care. They're like, we couldn't. Said, there's no way we can do to stop this. Goodbye. Mm-hmm. And she hung up on us. And I thought it was rude, because it's like, are you telling me those people don't have a phone, cell phone with them, where you could have stopped them and say, hey, don't deliver that $1,200 television set,
Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. I'm Scott McClellan. Please subscribe, and thanks for listening.